It's time to wake, set, go. Charge up the CEO in you with our motivational podcast geared towards helping you optimize and strategize your ideas into actionable results. With your host, Mercedes Allen, featuring guests from various industries from marketing, technology, and legal.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining me on another episode of Wake, Set, Go. So, I'm sure you guys are already having an awesome 2024. I know that I have had to really sit down and take account of what it is that I'm depositing into, what is it that I'm receiving. As you guys know, setting out your intentions for the year means that you have to actually make some very tough choices. So there's been things that I wouldn't say that I'm a physical hoarder, because as we know what a hoarder is someone that collects and keeps things even though they don't use them, and they clutter their lives. Now I know you think about hoarders, you think about the TV show where you go into strangers' homes and you can't see the floor because there's so much stuff. Regardless of what it is that they collect, it's just overwhelming. They don't even know what they have because they hoard so much. Well, the same is true whenever we are hoarding not necessarily only our thoughts, things in our mind that we can't really see what's the end goal because we're hoarding so much and we're holding on to so much and we don't want to let it go. We have to do that in order to receive and acquire and attain what's meant for us to have. So what that looks like is that there are things that I own, such as I was looking at today, there are websites that I own that I'm not receiving anything out of. It's not necessarily benefiting me, and I'm not able to pour into it like I once was. And so I've learned that it is sometimes better to end it and move forward versus spending time and energy and not even being 100% in. Being 100% in, you're going to get different results. You're going to feel energized. You're going to feel passionate about what it is that you're doing. When you're not 100% in, it's just going to be a drag having to do it. It's going to start to feel like a chore. And that's how most of us are when it comes to our side hustles, when it comes to our side businesses, and things we thought were going to fulfill us, but ultimately they're distracting us from what we really need to focus on and keep our sights on. The same things that I was interested in a couple years ago, they aren't things that align with the kind of person that I am now. And like I mentioned earlier, that website is one of them. So when I actually sit down and take account of what it is that I have to have my energy go towards, they're going to be trees. I guess we can label them like trees. So they're priorities. There's yourself. Obviously, you have to pour into yourself in order to reap the fruits of what it is that you're planning on doing. You can't be energized if you can't pour into yourself. You can't pour into others. You're not going to have the energy to be able to make good decisions if you're not mentally clear and stable on what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And so how you can counteract with that is seeing what's on your plate. What is it that you can let go of? And what is it that you need to kind of step away and walk away from so you don't become a hoarder and your life is just full of things, full of materials. There may be someone out there that's just full of bags, not necessarily just baggage, but I mean, you have a lot that you don't even know that you have. You go in your closet and you have some things that you have to get rid of in order to make room for something new. The same thing goes for our life. We have to see what's there. What is it that we're holding on to? And I'm going to let us just think on that for a moment. Just really take some time. And there's no right or wrong way to do this, but just take some time. What I did was I got a whiteboard, and I may have my whiteboard somewhere around here, but I got my whiteboard and I actually wrote down things that I'm involved in, What is it that it's pouring back into me as far as what is it that I'm receiving? What is it that I'm having to dedicate to getting that? How many hours am I having to pour into it to get these results? Maybe if I took or deducted my time in some other places, I could have more time to pour into X, Y, and Z. Those are the kind of things we have to take account for. So when you're looking at what it is you're involved in, you're looking at what it is that you are spending your time and energy on, you have to think about that moving into this year, that you can't move the same way you did years ago and expect that you're going to get different results. You're going to have to pivot. That doesn't mean that you're a failure, but you have to let go of some things. Let go of some of those activities that aren't fulfilling you in the same manner, which is why in our other episodes, we talked about having hobbies, having things that don't require you to necessarily use so much of your brain and think of it like a job, things that you just do for fun, just to refresh you. Those are the kind of things that you have to continue to make sure that you're staying involved in. That means having friends that you don't necessarily always have to talk business with, yes, but also making sure that those are positive relationships where it's not just filled with catching up on the latest gossip, because when does that ever help anyone? That means finding fulfillment in the work you do, your current job, that you can see the pros to it, that, hey, it does pay the bills, but these are activities that I'm doing. This is how I can allocate time and create boundaries, maybe, to where I'm not neglecting myself with my work, where you may have some time to fill in where you're working out and you're not necessarily just all about your job all day. There could be times where, even in relationships, being married or having kids, where you don't find time for yourself. You have to make sure that you're making those accounts and deposits to not necessarily be hoarding everyone else's things. You have to also make sure that you're filling your cup with some you things. I know that can sound selfish, but sometimes it's necessary to be selfish, especially when you have that overwhelmingness and that feeling of overwhelmingness. And I've been there before, trust me. So declutter. This is the steps and the ways that I've decluttered. I've went even further and said, okay, I want to sell this business, sell this part of my life, get rid of it because I no longer want to deal and be a part of it. Those are just the kind of things you have to get real with yourself, and you have to get real and do. Okay, look at you guys staying until the end to hear about how you can declutter your life. And here are a couple steps to keep you focused and keep you prioritized. I know it's going to be hard and it's a challenge, but I'm telling you, these key things have really helped me to stay focused and to gain clarity. The first things first, wherever you're sitting at, whatever you're at your desk or in your living space, make sure you start by decluttering there. So that means if you're operating in chaos with stacks of paper everywhere and it's unorganized, clearly your mind is going to feel all over the place, chaotic and unorganized as well. So a clutter-free environment, say it with me, people, it can help clear your mind. So take a moment to figure out how you're going to organize and clean your space, and watch how that just turns into a clear and focused mind. The next thing is to prioritize tasks. I know it can be hard to think of what's important, and trust me, this is something that's ongoing that you have to assess, because creating a to-do list for me is really key. Because if I put it in my phone with those little check marks on it, it's going to really make me feel like, okay, I've done this. This is important because it's here. This is something I need to focus on completing. I even created different folders and color blocks. So I put things that I want to prioritize and group them based on those labels. So again, whatever works for you, those are just some things to help with getting focus. Another thing, and I know with talking about vision board planning, setting goals was something that's always going to be key, where you're defining your long term and your short term goals. Because obviously, if you don't have an idea about what your goals are, how are you going to know what direction you should be on? And even going back to the prioritization list, like what are you doing that's going to align with those objectives? So being clear on that is really going to help you as well. The next thing, self explanatory, which is time management. Of course, I know it sounds so tempting. I've been there where you want to multitask, do several things at once, but avoiding it at all costs is just going to help you be that much more focused. It's going to help you to really declutter because you're not trying to balance so many things at once. Another thing is to say no. I know my people pleasers out there are not going to like this one, but it's really going to be important to not overcommit yourself. If you're wanting to declutter and you're wanting to make sure you're staying on track, you're going to have to politely decline some obligations just to free up some time and mental space. The thing about it that we're going to focus on with Wake Set Go is just being busy for the heck of being busy and having a lot of stuff to do is not a badge of honor that we're going to wear. Okay. And another thing that if you've been following me, we're really focusing on mindfulness in this era. And that means practicing it. That means doing meditation where you're reducing your mental clutter and you're increasing your focus. All right. Now, I know you guys aren't going to like this next one. I've had a struggle with it as well, but it's the digital detox, limiting our screen time, unsubscribing the unnecessary emails, decluttering our digital life just by organizing our files, organizing our apps. That can really help out a lot too as well. I know being on social media, I've gotten to a point where I don't even like check to see who's liked something, who's watched something, just because I'm more so interested in the intentionality of what I'm putting out and what I'm consuming. So I'm more so focused on that aspect versus what the responses are. And I think that kind of helps you to not get so wrapped up in a lot of other things that can be distracting. And another part of decluttering is knowing when you need to delegate some tasks, as well as finding help when needed, just to be able to get that support. And that's going to be helpful in your personal life as well as in work. And going back to where we were talking about earlier with assessing priorities, because again, your lists are going to change over time. And that's why it's important to reflect and journal. Taking time to reflect on your thoughts and your experiences are going to help you to gain clarity and prioritize effectively. So again, remember that decluttering your life and your mind, it is an ongoing process. So you just have to make sure that you're making adjustments as needed to maintain balance as well as focus. And hopefully this helps.